So today we're talking about if you were to start a junk removal business right now, what would be the personnel that you need? What are the roles you need in the first 30 days? Great question. Um, so I will tell you that in my mind, there are really three distinct roles that you need in order to get started and be effective. And there's a lot of variables to that. It depends on you as the owner, franchisee, or independent. Almost doesn't matter. It depends on your background, though. What kind of knowledge, what kind of experience do you bring with you? And that will dictate some of those additional roles, which we'll dig into in just a second. But over to you, Davis. I have set the table, to steal your phrase, which I like. I've set the table for you. So now, what is your thoughts? What are the roles that you need in the first 30 days?
Well, for starters, the sole reason we're doing this is to give folks visibility into what does it actually look and feel like to start, not even a franchise, just start a business. For us, it's a franchise because that's what we're offering. So there's a whole laundry list of things, and we talked on our last podcast episode about just generally what should you expect in the first 30, 60, 90 days of getting this new business off the ground. So this is more so taking a deeper dive into the line item of personnel. And it's helpful for folks as they talk to me. I just had a call an hour ago with a prospective franchisee up in Pennsylvania who's asking a number of questions. And this was one of them. And it makes a lot of sense because as you're evaluating brands, evaluating businesses, concepts that you could buy into and start, you obviously want to understand costs. You want to understand ongoing costs month over month. But you also want to understand infrastructure and personnel. Like, what do you need to actually do this business? And do you already have some of these things? Do you already have trucks? Do you already have, if you want to go down the rabbit hole of like something like pressure washing, power washing, do you already have some of these supplies? So within the junk removal space, the big ticket items are obviously your truck, your insurance, and your marketing expenses. But the other big line item for me is understanding personnel. If you're going to be the type of owner of a territory, of a city, we'll use obviously junk raider as an example. You want to know what you're going to be, what your responsibility is, or what you are going to have to do to help the business run day to day. For you and I, we are now in a position where we are not on the truck day in and day out, but we've built teams obviously to be on the truck. And I think we're up to, I don't know, 6 or 7 full-time guys and girls and another 2 to 3 part-time folks that are really strictly for field. And we've obviously got back end office and admin and call center and bookkeeper type personnel. So we're 10 plus organization, 10 plus employee organization. But so what does that look like for a new franchisee? Well, you're likely not going to look like that from day one, but you probably are going to get there at some point in the near future. Day one, you need absolutely at least and we're talking about major markets, Dallas, Pittsburgh, Chicago, whatever. Major markets, you need at least a truck, if not 2 or 3 trucks to start out with. One, just because the market is so large that you're going to need to service that many customers. But two, you can't just have one truck and it breaks down, within a week and it's in the shop for a week. And so you're out of business for a week because you only have one truck. So you need trucks. But from a personnel perspective, you need at least 2 full-time people. And that may be cutting it very slim, in addition to another 1 to 2 part-time people. In our business, we run Monday through Saturday. So even with 2 full-time people, it's not feasible to ask them to work Monday through Saturday. They could, I guess, if they want, work 6 days a week, put in 50 to 60 hours. But as the franchisor, the owner of the business, you can't operate that way. So you have to have at least 2 full-time people and at least 1 to 2 part-time people that you can start mixing and matching on different days, so that you ensure that everybody has at least 2 days off in a given week. And the majority of them are getting 30 to 40 hours of work. That's at a minimum. And then to your point, context means everything. If you're a semi or fully absentee owner, then you also need somebody between you, likely in the field teams, acting as a GM to manage those day-to-day operations and then report back to you on a weekly basis of how everything is going. So at a minimum, you need 3 to 4 people plus a GM. So you're looking at potentially 5 people out of the gates filling those roles that make the day-to-day go. So pause there. Over to you for your initial thoughts on my genius comments.
No, I agree with you completely. I would say, and you know this, it depends really on your market. It depends on your background. So, what do I mean by that? Well, if you're in a small market, you don't need five people to start. You could get by with literally just two people, and it's going to be a challenge. But I'll explain. If you're that person, in fact, we know guys that are doing this right now. You could be the owner and the field personnel. You could be on the truck every single day, doing the work, managing your ads, answering the calls while you're working, handling all customer service, paying the bills. Absolutely doable. We know that for a fact, but it is a nightmare, and we don't recommend doing that. It is absolutely going to impede your growth. First of all, it's going to stress you out. You're going to question, why are you doing this? We see these comments on a daily basis ad nauseum on Facebook groups, nonstop. So I have always said you need at least two people to start. Again, if you're that guy or that girl and you say, I'm willing to be that person, even if it's in the first 6 months or whatever, great. But in an ideal world, you would have a dedicated manager or team leader, someone that is responsible, someone that you can give this list of to-dos, and you know they're going to get done on time. They're going to communicate effectively. They're going to make sure the truck maintenance is being looked after. They're going to make sure they're not leaving the facility, the landfills, without weighing the truck and getting fussed at, and then you get kicked out of the landfills. Like, there are some real reasons why you want to have a good qualified manager as your primary person that you're managing. And then second to that person is what the industry calls a navigator, or the co-pilot, someone that's going to be with that person to help load items into the truck, yes, but also that's going to help navigate literally, so that that person, the manager, is driving. Their eyes are on the road ahead of them. They're not looking at their phone for directions. They're not texting customers. They're not answering to our 100 plus texts per day that we in the office are having to communicate with our guys. So those are the two roles at a minimum you have to have. Now, the reason I say a lot of this depends on your background is because, again, if you're that person that's very hands on and you want to do this because you love working with your hands, this has been your dream, awesome. But it's rare to have that person that also has a background in sales, operations, finance, marketing. At a minimum, you at least want to have a marketing partner, someone. And that is arguably one of the hardest tasks in not only this business, but in general. But in this business in particular, not just home services, but junk removal of home services is tricky because it's so nuanced. So you want to have an agency, in my opinion, that knows their stuff, and at a minimum, they are your Google Ads partner. So if you can just find a good agency partner to handle all that for you, because that is a huge task, especially if you don't have a background in marketing. The idea of someone just stepping into this business and trying to learn Google Ads, as an example, right out of the gate, on top of learning how to run their business and manage their guys and everything else, that's a nightmare. So I would say those are really the three things at a minimum: two full time employees, and you want to have a marketing partner that handles all of your ads. That leaves you, the owner, to do all that other stuff. And it's a lot, but you absolutely can do it. That means answering the calls, all customer service, all finance, all the bills, all the sales, any of that stuff, all the minutia falls on your plate. The caveat is, what happens when one of those guys gets injured, calls out sick, has an emergency, and it's going to happen. You want to have
Mm-hmm.
a backup person, at least a part time, someone that can step in and work either kind of ad hoc as needed. They can step in. That could be a college student. That could be someone that just needs part time income. Who knows? But you want to have a third person that can work the truck, that can get out there in the field if needed. So that would be my recommendation to anyone. Having said that, you raised a great point. If they're in a big market, if they're in Houston, if they're in New York City, that changes the conversation, because you're going to get overwhelmed almost day one, almost immediately. Those markets are so big. If you have a good marketing partner, a good agency, you're going to have leads coming in quickly. And those two people are going to get stuck on one big job, inevitable. And now the phone is continuing to ring. And what do most customers want in this business? Same day, next day. So that's where
Mm-hmm.
you want to, if you're in a bigger market, you really want to think bigger. And it's quite frankly why we would turn away probably quite a few prospective franchisees in those big markets if they don't have the appetite and if they don't have the resources. And I hate to say it that way, but it's just the truth because it ends up hurting them, the brand, and us if they can't consume that business that they have assigned themselves to consume. That would really be bad for everyone involved. So if you're in a major market, the conversation changes a little bit. I'd recommend you have at least 4 people that can do this and a fifth as standby. That's just in the field. You still want to have your marketing partner. You want to have at least a bookkeeper. I'll stop there, but that would be my take on it.
Yeah. I'm smiling because it's like these conversations are reasons as to why, if I'm on the outside looking in, looking at the junk removal industry, I'm like, man, it makes a lot of sense to me to maybe buy into a brand, join an existing brand, because there is so
Yeah.
much, right? It's not as easy as just, do you have a pickup truck and trailer, and are you willing to get on a truck and go do some jobs from Craigslist? So,
Yeah.
and this is just the line item of personnel. Like, what do you actually need? And to your point, there's undoubtedly, we're talking about the bare minimum. Like, obviously, if you have the resources and means to be able to bring on more people, or whatever your situation is, just have like a bunch of family members just sitting around like each day waiting for the call, like, kudos to you, but that's not most people's situation. So the business itself is such that the task at hand is so basic, yes, but the requirements of the business are very stringent, meaning it
Mm-hmm.
is transactional, it is same day next day. So if you've got 2 guys or gals that maybe work in the business full time in the field and one is down sick, there's a whole slew of things that pop up on your plate at 8 a.m. on Tuesday that you probably weren't going into Tuesday trying to figure out. Okay, I'm down a person. Can the one person that's left take care of the schedule with the types of jobs there are? Or is there a big sectional or armoire on the schedule for today up on the 3rd floor? Okay, one person can't handle that. Like, where do I get another person? Do I need to jump on the truck? So, not to fear monger at all, but these are the types of things that, as franchisors, you, me, and any other franchisor who has made the offering in the marketplace to buy into the brand provides for you, in the sense of a community, a handbook, real time support to help you figure that out. So I think it's crucial to be thinking about those things. The multi-unit operators that decide, hey, I'm ready to buy or go into, we can just use our local market. We want Charlotte and Greensboro. I want to own both markets. Well, now your personnel requirements change drastically. And not to mention, not to throw anybody for another curveball, but what if you decide to start getting into some different services that not every person can do, like
Yeah.
demolition, right? Not everybody can do demo. Not everybody can operate a skid steer or heavy machinery in general. So now your
Mm-hmm.
personnel requirements change, and how do you walk that fine line of, okay, I've got a demo guy, but he's going on vacation for a week, or he's also got this thing going on, and we need him for the junk removal services, but I've got a demo job I need to get to. So the business itself is very nuanced. Unfortunately, it is not like I guess to correlate it to something like B2B sales, where if you sell this product or service like IT, like technology services, like you put teams in place and they just go execute it, month over month, and it's, cookie cutter out of the box. And if somebody's sick, it's okay. It just rolls into the next day or the next week or the next month. Junk removal is very reactive, and that makes the business very hard to manage. So at a multi-unit level, if you don't want to just buy one territory, but you want to buy multiple, now your personnel obviously likely doubles. And beyond just the field personnel, you now need to really start looking at GMs. So you're now on a level of, you're clearly semi or fully absentee, because you physically can't cover both markets. You can't hop on the truck and go do anything. So you need a GM in one location and a GM in another. Or if they're close enough, maybe that GM covers both locations. But like, you definitely need a GM. So the conversation, I guess my point here is the context definitely matters, of who you are, what resources you already have available to you within your network, and are you a single unit or a multi-unit operator? That plays a massive role in the personnel you need. 2 other points I'd like to make are, beyond the field personnel and the GMs, who else do you need? Speaking more so maybe to the multi-unit people, the people that really want to scale and own a lot of territories, you're likely going to, in the near future, going to need to start looking at salespeople, people to actually go out and get you not only corporate accounts, but residential business as well. So, and that's personnel that in the junk removal space, folks at the local level may not be thinking of, but it's a very great and strategic move. There's not a whole lot of junk removal companies that have dedicated salespeople. A lot of us have relied on our field personnel to, with their bandwidth in the field, which is obviously limited. Oh, pop in over here and go over here while you're out and hand out this business card, or put a yard sign out over here. It's not efficient, and it's tough to track. But I think you and I can agree that what we've asked our guys in the field to do over 6 years has yielded minimal results. It's needed and it's gotten us some business, but it pales in comparison to if we had a full-time salesperson, like waking up every day 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., outbound calling, dropping in local markets or local businesses and trying to drum up relationships and business that way. It would be a game changer. So to think beyond, the first 30, 60, 90 days, what type of personnel do you need to actually do the jobs? You now need to start looking at personnel needed to fulfill roles within other departments like sales. Obviously, for us as a franchisor, to comment on your marketing piece, we as the franchisor handle all of the digital marketing. So you don't really have a whole lot of responsibility there, needing to go hire somebody. That's more so at the corporate level for us as a franchisor to provide. But you do need to get into bookkeeping, accounting. Who's doing that for you? Are you doing that, or are you outsourcing it? Right. So there's personnel outside of the day-to-day actual tasks of junk hauling and running the trucks that you have to think about as you get into the business. And then lastly, like, where do you get these people from? We've been very fortunate that we've got a circle of friends and family and close colleagues that we've been able to pull in over 6 years as we need, with turnover or whatever. And a lot of folks we've trusted, but we have had to go to the open market many times and try to, just hire somebody we don't know at all. So maybe Ted, you want to talk about, just because that's a lot of your bread and butter within driving culture and within an organization and personnel. What are the best practices around how to go recruit, hire, the types of people you want to look for, the backgrounds, experience? Maybe you touch on that a little bit.
I mean, I think what we have seen is the quality candidates that we have seen. And we've been so fortunate, as mentioned, the turnover rate is almost non-existent for us. It has been because we have really tapped into the existing network of our guys. When I think about all of our employees, they all know each other than Matt. Matt's our one guy that we found on the outside. So I always recommend people, start there. Start with your existing employees, incentivize them, whether it's, some kind of a referral bonus. If this guy gets hired, it's $500 or whatever, because you're going to pay that easily to Indeed and Career Builder and all those other ones. You're going to pay that to put that job posting out there and keep it running. It's not cheap. And then if you use other tools, software to manage that stuff, there's an additional expense right there. So I would encourage people to look at your existing employees and incentivize them, motivate them to tap into their network, whether it's friends, colleagues, former colleagues, family members, anyone they know that they can just get the word out there. Because typically birds of a feather flock together. So if you have a really high quality employee, most likely he's not going to have friends over here that are just getting out of prison. They're probably going to be decent guys that you can tap into. So I would say look at that. Not that getting out of prison is going to completely disqualify you, right? We're open to that. We have that situation happening now. So that's not necessarily a disqualifier, but honestly, that has been the best resource for us. Now, a lot of this comes down to you personally, your company, your culture. For us, we love the Chick-fil-A model. So when I go into Indeed, when I go into those job boards, I actually type those in. I type in things like Chick-fil-A. I type in homeschool. I type in farm experience, because I know based on our experience, people that have those backgrounds in military, those backgrounds just crush all the others. If you've worked on a farm, you are most likely, without even talking to you, you most likely are a prime candidate for junk removal. You're used to getting dirty. You're used to stinky stuff. You're used to heavy things. You have an attitude. You have an appreciation in a way that a lot of people don't for just hard work and what that yields you. So if your culture is appreciative of the Chick-fil-A way of doing things, then I would recommend you do the same thing. If you're just wanting people that are just hard-nosed and fast, get the job done, no nonsense, I think typing military background is certainly a good place, but you're going to have certainly a wider circle. I mean, I'll be the first to tell you it's harder being the way that we are. We have very high standards. We do not hire just anyone, just a warm body and say, well, it's turnover. As soon as they mess up, you fire them. That is not our philosophy. Our philosophy is take your time and hire the right person because then you don't have the turnover. Now, you're going to pay them more and there is going to be more hand holding at times. There's no doubt about it. I spend a disproportionate of my time, at least historically, just getting to know my guys, investing in them, and really understanding the psyche of these people. How do you motivate? Because it's different from one person to the next. But I know every place is not like that. I get it. I appreciate it. I think it's better when you hire right and really incentivize your people to perform at the highest level. And the number one secret I have found over the years is when people know that you care about them. It's John Maxwell all day. When people know that you care about them, they're going to stay and they're going to give you their best. So if you have this model where people very much know that you have a conveyor belt. If you're good, you stay. If you're bad, you're out. That is going to permeate your culture as well, and it's going to be hard to retain. You may find them, but it's going to be hard to retain great talent if they feel like they're on the chopping block as soon as they mess up. We try our best to never fire people. You have to really. I'm talking like dead body situations for us to fire you around here, unless you're just a complete idiot. We really do try to work with that person and make them great because leaders aren't born. They are groomed, they are made. And so if you're willing to invest the time in your guys, including lots of conversations, lots of sit downs, lots of listening. I have a topic on my board, Davis, for our next podcast that says how important is self-awareness? Because I think just being self-aware as a leader, as a manager, is so important with cultivating a great work environment. Why? Because you should be aware of your bad habits as a leader. I just saw Patrick Bet-David from Valuetainment, his podcast, I think it was yesterday, telling a story about how he took some family out to dinner recently. And it's as a family member, and they're sitting at dinner, the waiter walks by, and the person does this. And he's just like, oh, dear God.
Yeah.
So he took that so personal. He gets up and goes to the waiter, apologizes, says, I'm sorry, we're going to take good care of you. He's a regular there, sits back at the table and says to his kids first who are sitting there and his family, like everyone's sitting there. And he says, hey, we don't talk to people that way. We don't snap our fingers at people and order them around. And then he looks at the family member and basically says, don't ever do that again. Don't ever do that again. That's not how we talk to people. That's you and me all day, right? And that is a huge differentiator between, in my opinion, from what we've seen, most businesses do not run that way. Not saying they go around snapping their fingers at everyone, but it's the way you treat people. We have that same level of respect for our guys as we do the CEO of a major company that we're trying to do business with. So that's where I will end it. For me, it's most important is how you treat your guys and girls. How do you treat them? If you treat them with the same level of respect that you want to be treated, Davis. If you don't like to be yelled at, don't yell at your guys. I don't want to be yelled at, so I don't yell at my guys. I don't care how bad they mess up. You're never going to see the day that I'm just reaming them out. So finding employees to me is the easier part. Keeping them and keeping them motivated and keeping them loyal, that's the hard part. And that just comes down to how you treat them.
Yeah, I'll end with more tactfully, like from a personnel perspective. And I've heard a lot of different strategies, but whatever strategy you like to employ, whether that's, I pull people from retail, or I pull them from the restaurant and food service business, or I pull them from, farming and blue collar backgrounds, whatever that is, it has to be with experience or somehow figure out about this person, how much they care about customer service. Like, what is your interaction with other humans?
That's a great point.
That person snapping your fingers at the waiter is not that person, at a core level. And so, how again, whatever the industry is that you pull from, you like to filter by. We do Chick-fil-A. We don't necessarily have to. We're not filtering by food service. We're filtering by Chick-fil-A backgrounds. But if you think that guys, and I've heard people say, oh, people from food industries are great because that's all I hire for my home service business because they're great with customers. Great. They just make sure they're good with people. So I think that's incredibly important. Episode over. Final thoughts are, for me, as you can see with all of the line items that exist in running a business, starting a business, franchise or not, personnel is a massive one that has a lot of different rabbit holes and nuances based on the business you're starting. This is why the franchise system makes a lot of sense and why people that join franchise systems tend to succeed and others that start on their own, unfortunately, tend to fail more often, according to the stats, because they aren't prepared for this, and they don't have the support system in real time to help them through those bottlenecks as they pop up. And so we believe that we've got a great model here, and the blueprint doesn't just exist on paper in a manual. The blueprint exists in the community of the minds that we all have together, and that are going to continue to grow as more franchise owners come and be a part of this family. So if you're interested in the Junk Raider franchise family, there's a myriad of ways you can find us. You can find me personally all over social media: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. You can find us on our website, junkraider.com. There's a franchise page there. We've got a YouTube channel, obviously, where these videos live. And our goal for doing these is not to hear ourselves talk. It is to allow prospective franchise candidates to do their own research on their own time and their own terms, because that's how we like to learn. We don't like being death by phone call and PowerPoint and having to do all these calls with people just to learn about a product or service. I want to do it on my own. So we're making all of this content available on our YouTube channel for that reason, so we can point people there, and you can consume as much as you want. Ted, anything to end with?
Nope. I think you said it all very, very well. This is a great episode. I hope people got something valuable out of it.
Awesome.
That's it. See you guys.